Bonjour, Kinamage Ireland Indigenicas, and welcome to today's lesson from My Math. Today's lesson is from Chapter 1, Lesson 3, Hands-on Model Fractions and Decimals. Our essential question throughout this entire chapter is, how does the position of a digit in a number relate to its value? We talked a great deal in the first few lessons about whole numbers. Well, today we're also going to talk about decimals. So looking in your book on page 23 in your packet, we do have vocabulary words at the top, decimals and decimal point. Numbers that have digits in the tens, hundreds, or beyond are called decimals. So 3.2 is a decimal, 0.1 is a decimal. A decimal point is the period-looking punctuation used to separate the ones place from the tens place. So let us begin here. It says use a model to show 3/10. That's how we would read it. We read the number on the top as if just plain out what is that digit. And then we would say tenths or hundredths or thousands or fifths, whatever it might be. We add those extra sound at the end. So let's get out the annotate tool here. And we'll get the draw here. And I need to shade in 3. So I'm going to shade 1, 2, and 3. Oops. Sorry about that, people. Get the eraser out here. Start that one just a little bit better. Ooh, much better. All right. So we have, how many columns did I shade in? 1, 2, 3. Basic, niche, this way. So I'll put in my 3. The model shows, and let's do word form, how many tenths? Basic, niche, this way, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go ahead and use the text box here. And the decimal. Slide that just a little further. How many are in here? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put a 3. So my decimal is 0.3. So I had 3 different ways of modeling this. So you can see the place value chart. There's my decimal point. It's a decimal because there is a number a digit to the right of the decimal point. You can also see what it looks like. So 3/10, would that be less than, greater than, or equal to a half? Well, a half would be right about here. So it's less than a half. Well, a third of it. Again, it's read as 3/10, 0.3. And now let's move on. See, already done for us. A little tougher one. Use a model to show 9 100ths or 900ths. Write it in word form and as a decimal. So let's go back and get my annotate tool again. I'm going to get the thicker one because it'll make my life a little easier. Much easier tool to control. And the first step is I'm going to shade some in. How many am I going to shade in? Well, if it says 900ths, the digit on the top, the numerator, is 9. That's all I have to have here. So now let's get my draw. And I need to draw in 9 of them. 8, 9. And my model shows Now let's put it in words. What was that number again? 900ths. So I'm going to put the word 9 spelled out. We have 900ths. And now the decimal. And it's a little tougher because we have a 0 in the tenths, so we don't want to put that there. And then we have a 9 in the hundredths. So my decimal is 0.09. If you're starting to notice something, when I hit a 9 on the top, that's how many squares I'm coloring in. The numerator tells me how many. And then how many parts or how many places are in our decimal? Well, it depends. If I had 1 0, so it was over a 10, we only went one spot. With 100, we went 2 spots. If we had 1,000, there we'd go 3 spots. So we go into the next column. Again, if you have any questions, please do send a contact message. So we see the answer on the try it. Here's another one. So let's go back to our first thing. I'm going to go get my text box, the annotate tool. And how many am I going to shade in? What's the number on the top? 34. So I'm going to shade in 34 of the small squares. Again, I'm going to use my drawing tool here. There's 10, 20, 30, and then 4. So I shaded in 34 of these. What is going to be my word form of this? What number do you think I'm going to spell out here? If you said 34, you are correct. 34 hundredths. Notice it's not hundreds, it's hundredths. When we're dealing with decimals, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And it also says here, notice there are how many tenths. Each of these columns represents 1/10. If I took away all the left-right ones, my latitudes, would be 10 columns. So 3 of them are colored in. So we notice there are 3/10. So far, is there any questions on this? If so, please do send me a message. And I'm going to scroll down on the next slide here. Clear my drawings. I'm going to shut that off there. And I got to get to the bottom. I'm going to go right back to my annotate tool. We had 34. There were 3/10. How many hundredths? You said 4, you are correct. And then let's get our decimal. And we look here and there's 0.34. So these numbers were transcribed right over here. So that might tell you that the first number to the right of the decimal is the tenths, the second number, the hundredths. Slide. Let's talk about something here. The model on the right shows a thousandths cube. Notice the THS at the end. So that tells us we're working with a number less than 1. What fraction of the model is shaded? Write it as a decimal. So what would you write this as? Okay, let's get the annotate tool. Sorry, I want the text box. First off, how many are colored in? Basic, niche, Nisway, Niwin. So there's 4 colored in. Divided by. And how many is in 1,000? What's that number? If you said a 1 with 3 zeros, That's correct. Now let's write it as a decimal. It's less than 1, so I'm going to put a 0 and then my decimal point. And now let's think here, 4 thousandths. Are there any tenths? So is there any spot where the whole row is colored in? Or whole block? No. Is there a whole row colored in? Also no. Now we get to the individual blocks, and there are 4 colored in. So you get 4 over 1,000. So you notice again, we have 3 decimal places because there are 3 zeros in the 1,000. That 4 is the only non-zero digit. So here's your first 0, your second 0, and now a 4. The models show 80 over 100, write the fraction in word form. Now, how many rows do you think I would need to color in here if it's 80 over 100? Well, I'm going to show you a little trick. 80 over 100, they both end in 0. I could divide the top and bottom both by 10. So I now have 8 out of 10. That tells me I need to color 8 columns in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Clear my mess here a little bit. So I have now colored in 8 out of 10, which is equal to 80 over 100. They are equivalent fractions. So I now need to do it in word form and as a decimal. Well, I could go either as 80 hundredths, take right what's there, or now that I've taken the 0 off of both by dividing top and bottom by 10, that would leave me with 8 tenths. So my 2 possible decimals, 0 because it's not a whole one, 0.80 or 0.8, depending on how I go. If we're dealing with hundredths, I need to have both 8 and 0. If I convert it to tenths, 0.8. So if you notice something that went back to our pretest, it is possible to have differing number of digits after the decimal point and have an equal or equivalent fraction. So 0.80 and 0.8 are the same, as would be 0.8000000000, also the same. Let's practice it. Here's what I want you to do. Once you're done, I would like you to pause the video, do these 3 problems, and come back and let's see how you did. Go ahead, pause the video, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. Let's get our annotate tool out. And let's do the drawings first. Shade the model. First one, 7 out of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Over here, they're going to do all but 1 because that's 9 out of 10. And 4 tenths. 1, 2. If you're doing this at home with a pencil, I hope you're neater than I am. So now we have the shaded in. And how did I know which ones and how much to use? Well, there's a 7, so I knew to color in 7. There's a 9, I knew to color in 9. There's a 4, I knew to shade 4. So now I need to do it in word form. So the first one, the top, my numerator is 7, and it's a 10 on the bottom, and again, we end it with a THS. Over here, there's 9. Again, it's just a 10 added with THS, so it's tenths. And last one, it's a 4 on the top, and then it's a 10 with a THS, 4 tenths. Believe it or not, you have completed this page. Let's go on to the next. Now let's do numbers 7 and 9. That way we space it out. I want you to pause the video, do 7 and 9, and come back and check it out when you're done. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get our annotate tool again. I'm going to draw a little thicker. I need to shade in 5 pieces, 2, 3, 4, 5. And over here, I need to do 21. Now, what's cool is I know that there are 10 in each column. So there's 10, 20, and 1. So now I can go to my text box here, and I'll put it right there. What's my numerator? The number on top, well, 5. And how many blocks are there? Well, it tells me there's going to be 100. 1, 2, 0. So I'm going to put hundreds. So you see the 100 in THS. Over here, we have 21. That's my numerator. Again, there's 100 on the denominator, so I put hundredths. Hopefully you're beginning to see the pattern that I'm going to take whatever number's on the bottom, and add THS, and then on the top, it's whatever the number is. The number on the top tells me the part that is shaded in. The number on the bottom, the denominator, tell me the whole. That, move on. Write the decimal for each one. And this is the last spot before I start sending you out on your homework soon. I'm going to get my annotate tool. I'm going to use my text box. Well, let's see here. There's a 2 on the top. Well, we don't have a full one. So I'm going to put 0 point, and I have my decimal point. And there's 2 colored in. Over here, there's no full ones and 8 colored in. Get over here, there's no full ones. My decimal point, now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colored in. 0.5. So that first number, which would be the number on the top, is your decimal. So it's the number on the top in 2 tenths. It's 0.2. And hopefully you're starting to see some of the patterns. Patterns are a great thing when it comes to math. Write the decimal for each one. Go ahead and pause the video, and come back when you're done. Welcome back. I'm going to hit the next slide. And in here we see that there's 1 column in, so we put a 1 in the tens place, 7 smaller ones, so 7 hundredths. So 1 10 and 7 hundredths give us 17 hundredths, 0.17. Now we get over here, there are 8 columns colored in and 9 small blocks. Those hundredths are representing the small, represented by the small blocks, but columns, the whole numbers. 0.68, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 whole columns, but no whole page. That's where you get 0.6, and then there are 8 hundredths pieces, tenths, hundredths. We're going to skip past a few of these for right now. Let's go back and talk about this one. Write the decimal and fraction for each model. Are they equal? So what do you think? Let's get our annotation tool here. The fraction for there is 0.4. And the one here 0 because it's not a full one. There's 4 whole columns and 0 small ones. 0.4, 0.40. So yes, they are equal. So if you said yes, you did a good job. Not, you figured it out. So now we're going to get to the homework. Sorry, I went too far. On numbers 1 and 2, it says shade the model to show each fraction. Write each fraction in word form. So you're going to shade in 4/10, and you're going to write that word, 4/10. Same thing with the 8/10. Shade the model to show each fraction. Write each one in word form. Then you're going to continue on the back, write the decimal for each model. I don't want to give you the answer key, so I'm going to pause on showing the video, or right here on the video. You get to number 9, the largest butterfly in the world is found in Papua New Guinea. Weighs about 9/10 of an ounce. Use a decimal to write the weight. Number 10, choose the correct word, decimal or decimal point, which is the term for used to separate the ones place from the tens place. I'm going to give you a hint. Whenever they do a vocabulary check, the answer is in that lesson. And number 11, circle all of the following that represent 32 over 100. That'll bring us to the conclusion of lesson 3. As is the case with any other assignment, if you're stuck, please message me at mireland@psychchipschool.net. Pop into my office hours, send me a Google Voice text. I'm always available to try to help you out. Make sure you're asking questions. You're welcome to ask questions of your friends, family, whoever can help you, because we are a community of learners. I hope you all have had a great lesson, and I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson. Pamilagijagadan, Mama P.